Hey guys, on this video we're going to be putting a third function remote on a Kioti CK 3510. First I got to get this mess cleaned up. This is the only place I have to work indoors right now, and the sawmill, I thought I set it up in here temporarily probably 6 months ago, and that's where it's been ever since. My intentions were to saw up enough lumber on it to build me a sawmill shed, and then I've just, one thing after another come up. I've not got around to it. But also, before we get started, I got to get all that mess cleaned up, and then I can get the tractor in there and get busy on it. Before I get started, I'm going to show you, I've got just went and picked up a new Champion 27-ton log splitter. I'm going to be making some modifications. I'm going to do a review on it first, using it as is. I'm going to be doing some modifications to it, several modifications to it. I'm going to convert it where it's going to be pushing the wood instead of the wedge. I'm going to swap the wedge in the around there on the other end. I'm going to cut and re-weld and refabricate. And I'm also going to try to put a log lift on it in the future, and I think I'm going to try to put a new pump on it, see if I can speed it up. But I chose this 27-ton over the 34-ton because of the cycle time was quite a bit faster by, I think it's about 5 seconds quicker on the cycle time. But anyways, keep an eye out for those videos in the future. Now I've got this. I just got this in, I've had that third function remote for a couple of weeks, but I hadn't got around to putting it on. So, and I got the picture, just had the grapple shift in. I think I got it off the truck on, I think 2 days ago maybe. So it's time to go ahead and put the third function remote kit on the tractor and see how this thing works out. So it don't take long to accumulate a big mess, and that's what I have here. Since this is the only place I have to work indoors, I don't have a sawmill shed built yet, so I've been using it in here. Now I need to bring the tractor in to work on it, do some maintenance, and install that third function remote. So I gotta get this mess cleaned up. I'm gonna try to split the track on this sawmill. I think I can take one section of the track off, scoop the rest of it back against the wall, and I think I'll be able to get in around it to get in here to work on things. All right, so we got the tractor in here. Now the first thing we gotta do is get it jacked up, get the tire wheel off of it. This hydraulic jack. Turned it over the other day, lost some oil out of it. I hope it's still got enough to keep the tractor off the ground. Looks like it's a 24 millimeter. I'd say everything on this is going to be metric, but most of the time you can use get a standard size and get close enough. If you're down on your knees, knee pad makes it a lot more comfortable. It didn't used to bother me in my younger years. The older I get, the worse, the harder it is on me. Those things with the fluid in the tire, I don't know what they weigh, but they're heavy. So you always want to use a jack stand for added security. Now, I noticed in the instructions that it gives two different sets of instructions. One when you got the rollover protection system and one for a cab tractor. So obviously this is the rollover protection, got the roll bar. It's also got this heavy duty, box. I'm assuming that's where this valve block goes into and it protects it. I've not read that far into the instructions yet. Got some quick connect couplers. Hydraulic brackets. So I think this is what we're going to need first. All right, so we got to remove this hydraulic line here, calling it a pipe, hydraulic pipe here, to gain access to this pipe, which leads to over here. It's a 19 millimeter, and I'm assuming we'll lose some fluid. I set my front and the rear lift and the loader. I set them both on the ground where they won't, because I'm sure we're going to lose fluid once we break into this hydraulic system, which will let the loader for sure. I'm not sure if I assume it let the rear drop as well. All right, there's that one. Hydraulic fluid dripping a little bit, but not what I was expecting. Lay it up here. Not going to be a 13, it's probably going to be the 12. 13 was slipping. Yeah. So that's a 12 millimeter in there. That end is that flange is at. That pipe, when you got a flange like that, that pipe will be shoved in there. You're going to have an O-ring right here you want to hang on to. Looks like I picked up a little trash where I let it slip against the side of that in there. When you put it back together, you want to make sure there's no trash. Well, I thought I'd catch that on my rag here, but make sure there's no trash on your O-rings. That can cause a leak for sure. If yours has the vertical valve, like you see here, you do not have to take the seat off. You just have to take the fender off. Now I can't remember seeing, there's like 7 bolts and 2 nuts or something that holds this fender on. You do have to take that off. Obviously take the wheel off, the fender off, and then pretty much you have to take this H pipe off, they call it, and all you're doing is getting it out of the way. It's a metal hydraulic pipe. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's the one on the bottom here, sticking out the back. Comes around right over top of the filter, and goes back into the transmission. I don't think you could even see that, but you take it off to get it out of the way. Then you got a hose that's running from right above where that H pipe. You got another. It's actually I think it's another pipe, metal pipe, bolted on there. It comes around to this vertical valve here. You take it off. You will not reuse it. In this valve, you're putting. It's a fitting that looks similar to this, but it's not as long. It's got a rubber O-ring on it right there to seal it off. Try to set the camera down here so it's not so wobbly. All right, so right here, the fitting goes in with the O-ring, and then you've got, let's say this was a hydraulic hose R. That's something that confused me on the instructions. I couldn't figure out. I had them backwards. Hydraulic hose R. And you don't need any kind of sealant or anything. It's going to be, everything's going to seal off. Make sure your O-ring's on that fitting. I forget what it's called, but basically looks like a nipple with an O-ring on it. Put this pipe, the hydraulic hose on here. It's got to run down over. You want it tucked in behind the row bar there where it bolts on. It's going to run up and it's going to bolt in right here on the valve body there. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but then you got this pipe comes with it, with the kit. It bolts in place of the pipe you took off that run back here. You using the existing banjo bolt, I'm calling it. I don't know what it's really called. Make sure you got an O-ring on both sides. You might have to reuse your O-rings, and then the bracket. You got a bolt right there that holds the bracket, and then that's going to get you to this point. And then hydraulic hose P will fasten there. It runs around, and you want to put the straight in on this one. This one gets the crooked in, the 90 degree. This gets the straight in. This one is hydraulic hose P. It runs around. It's going to bolt on or fasten on right here on this 90 on that valve body. Now, that's to this point. These boxes, these mounting boxes, they mount on different. Mine has the I forget what they called that bracket there, but it has a bracket right under the step. As you can see, it bolts on, and the holes in this bracket are a lot bigger than the bolts. You probably can't hardly see, but it comes with 2 bushings that are made to stick down in there the same diameter of the hole on this angle bracket and the box, and you bolt it up, It'll have washers down here, but it's all in the kit and it's all labeled, but it may not be, everything's not labeled right. That bolts your box on. The back of this valve body has got studs that go into it, just little studs. Use an Allen key to put them in. And you're supposed to put this rubber dampener in between the valve body and this box. Let's see exactly what it's called. It's called a diverter valve. So the rubber dampener goes between the mounting box and the diverter valve. I've got to take mine back loose and get that on. As far as the wires go, I think they did have some markings on them, like, yeah, this one's got a 3 on it, this one's got a 5 on it. That's the only thing I can find. I can't find anything that tells what that even means. So after I get everything together and working, if I don't have this is just one of them's going to open. Like I'm going to be running mainly a grapple. One of them's going to open the grapple, one's going to close it, and I don't know which one's going to do which. But basically, these buttons on the joystick, one will control, one's going here, one button sending a signal there. So after I get it going, if it don't work the way I want it to, I'll just come back, open this box, swap the wires around. And when I get finished, I'm going to wait. I'm getting ready to show you where this other wire goes to, where these other 2 wires go to. But after I get them, everything wires where they go, I'm going to tuck all my slack back in here and tie it up in there so it'll be all enclosed in the box. Now, this wire, it's got the little, I guess a pigtail you call it. It'll run up, right there's the other end of it. But you got to take your shifter off. All you got to do is pull this boot, just pull it loose, and if you can get some kind of oil or something on the inside right here, on the inside, it'll slide off of the old shifter, because this is actually a new shifter that comes with the kit. So it'll slide. I know it's a lot bigger than the hole, but it will slide off. The boot will. Then when you're putting it back on, you can lube this side, turn it inside out, and shove this shifter, and it will slide down through. Just be careful not to rip it. Some people go ahead and cut a slit in it, then just put a zip tie real tight, but I was able to do it without putting, once you put that slit in, it's going to make it prone to tear on back. So I was able to do that, get it slid on with lubing it up with some oil. Then I used a screwdriver just to stretch this out carefully to feed this connector back down through the boot where the shaft of the shifter, or I'm calling it a shifter, joystick goes through. And that's basically all you do. Put the boot back in, the wire goes down. Now the other wire, it don't have that pigtail, it's just a big long wire, and I fed it up over the transmission to the other side, and it will to where your 12 volt accessories at. You're going to take this off. You're going to unbolt the plastic here. It's got a bolt here. I don't know if those two have to come out. I don't know. But get that loose, take it out. And I don't think you can see down in there with it off. But I'm going to pause the camera here, and I'll get that cover taken off and show you how that wire hooks up. All right, so I've lost the video footage of where I was hooking this wire up on the kit. This is the number 46 on the diagram. This wire, this end of this I'm going to call it a pigtail. This end of this pigtail plugs into the wire feeding from, the wire that's in the kit that's coming from the valve that you installed across the top of the transmission. It's going to run over to the 12 volt plug, the auxiliary plug, in the under the console on the left-hand side of the tractor. If you're sitting in the seat, it's kind of under there where the cup holder is. You're going to take 5 or 6 bolts out of that plastic, the cup holder, and it's going to lift off. You unplug the 12-volt auxiliary wire, and one of these plugs will plug into the wire that you unplugged from the 12-volt auxiliary plug. The other one's going to plug right into the back of the auxiliary plug. So basically all you're doing, this wire is feeding over to the 12-volt wire, the hot wire. You're splicing into that 12-volt auxiliary plug to feed 12 volts to the third function valve on the tractor. All right, we've got our hoses connected to the diverter box, diverter valve. Run up, we got the bracket on. We got our fitting, both fittings through the bracket. Hoses A and B. I don't know if I've got these on the right side. I can't make sense out of the instructions, so I put A on the back, B on the front, green on the front, red on the back. You want to use thread sealant when you're putting this coupling, quick connect coupling onto the fitting. And now it's time to put the female end onto the hoses, and you'll need to put thread sealant on these fittings where they go into the female end there. You won't need them on the hose end, but on the female fitting end you will. All right, it comes with new longer bolts. They're going to be in the same package as these little thin nuts that hold these couplers in place. But you take this clamp, hold the existing clamp off there to hold this bracket on. Bracket goes on there. Got your little, they're calling it a spring washer. They call it a lock washer. Good opportunity to tighten that on up there too, if you didn't get it good. got it installed. The third that inverter valve, that third valve function, and the grapple seems to be working fine. I did have to change out the connections on the grapple end. The grapple that I bought came with like the skid steer type flat couplers. I'm not familiar with that stuff, so I just took the hoses off the cylinder, loose from the cylinder, took the hoses and my connection for the tractor up to the local hydraulic shop, and they hooked me up with the right couplers. But it seems to work fine. One thing you have to do is I bled all the hydraulic fluid out of this grapple. It came, I guess it was tested from the factory, whatever, had fluid in it. I didn't want to contaminate my fluid in the tractor, so I worked the cylinders and pushed as much fluid out, hydraulic fluid, as I could out. So you will, if you do that, you will have to add a little hydraulic fluid into your tractor. But it seems to work flawlessly so far. One thing I probably would do with this size tractor, that is a pretty good amount of weight on it. On the front, it feels like I'm not really trying to pick up anything big compared to what I used to just pick up logs with forks. But I went with this one in case I go with a bigger tractor in the future. I didn't want to have a grapple that wouldn't hold up to the more horsepower tractor, so that's why I went with this one. But if you really a lighter weight grapple would probably be better for this size tractor, because you're losing some of your lift capacity. The heavier the grapple is, the more lift capacity you're losing, the less log you can pick up, I guess. Anyways, guys, hopefully this video will help you, save you some time installing the third valve function kit. Thanks for watching, and if you don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends, and keep an eye out for future videos. See ya.